These are the headlines we're following at this hour. Israeli forces continue their ground offensive against Hamas in Gaza as the country's Prime Minister Netanyahu says the war could be long and difficult. Meanwhile, Iran accuses Israel of crossing the red line, hinting that Tehran could possibly get involved in the conflict. 1 year on since a tragic crowd crushed in Itaewon that claimed 159 lives during Halloween gatherings. President Yoon calls the saddest day of his life, vowing his best for the public safety. We also look at where South Korea stands now since the tragedy. President Yoon says the business deal signed during his recent trip to the Middle East will create jobs and boost the economy. Yoon also addressed the need for pension reform ahead of his budget speech on Tuesday. Good afternoon. President Yoon says his recent overseas trip to the Middle East last week will boost the economy and improve the livelihoods of people in South Korea. Speaking at a cabinet meeting on Monday, the president cited 63 MOUs and deals made in Saudi and Qatar worth around $20 billion. He says they will create jobs across different industries and said his trip to the UAE earlier this year already is yielding results. He also said the government's pension reform plan will be sent to the National Assembly soon and vowed not to put political gains first. He urged Parliament to pass bills related to livelihoods during current regular session. President Yoon is set to make a speech on the government's fiscal plan for year 2024 on Tuesday. South Korea is seeing a widening gap in its gross national income per capita with 7 major economies in the world. It is once again behind Italy that has the lowest figure among the G7. But maybe South Korea's GDP growth could push the country above Italy, as was the case 3 years ago. Our Moon has the details.
The gap between South Korea's gross national income and that of G7 countries is growing bigger on the back of the weakening Korean won and slow economic growth. According to data released by the Bank of Korea on Monday, the country's gross national income per capita by the World Bank's latest measurements for 2022 came to $35,990. GNI per capita is an important economic metric as it represents national income. Of the G7 countries, the top 7 economies in the world, Italy had the lowest GNI per capita at just under $37,000, but this is still over $1,700 more than South Korea. Back in 2020, South Korea's GNI per capita ranked above Italy's by $610, the first time in history that the country had recorded such a feat. However, this was temporary as Italy recorded a 9% decline in economic growth due to the effects of COVID-19. The following year, in 2021, Italy's GNI per capita rose by over $1,000. When compared to the United States, which ranks first among G7 countries in terms of GNI per capita, the gap widened with the US figure at around $40,000. The growing gap has been attributed to the weakening Korean won as well as differences in economic growth. According to the Bank of Korea's economic statistics system, the Korean won depreciated by around 13% in 2022 compared to 2021, when comparing the average $1 exchange rates throughout the year. While the euro, which is used in Italy, also fell against the greenback, the average euro-dollar exchange rate throughout 2022 was around 11% lower than the previous year, showing that the decline of its currency was weaker than that of the Korean won. As for economic growth, Italy's gross domestic product grew by 3.7% last year. This is more than 1 percentage point higher than South Korea's GDP for the same period, which was recorded at 2.6%. Whether South Korea can overtake Italy once again this year is dependent on GDP growth, as the exchange rate is said to be unlikely to recover within the next few months. The South Korean government has maintained its growth projection of 1.4% for the year, while Italy has reduced its outlook from 1% to 0.8%. Moon, Arirang News.
President Yoon vowed to do his best for public safety, expressing sorrow in remembrance of young people who died last year when Halloween street celebrations turned into a daily crowd crush. On Sunday, the president attended a memorial service at a church in northern Seoul, marking a year since the day that the accident occurred when some 100,000 people flocked to the streets of Itaewon, a nightlife area in Seoul, to enjoy Halloween festivities. 159 people died, most of them in their 20s. Offering his condolences to the bereaved families, Yoon said it had been the saddest day of his life.
오늘은 제가 살면서 가장 큰 슬픔을 가진 날입니다. 대한민국 국민 모두가 저와 같은 마음일 것입니다. 불의의 사고로 돌아가신 분들의 명복을 빕니다.
He said it is the duty of Korean citizens to make the world a better place where everyone can enjoy safety in their daily lives. He placed stronger efforts on the government's part to make the country safe so that the sacrifices of the lives lost would not be in vain. The tragic crowd crush led to calls for institutional changes to ensure public safety. Now, 1 year on, what changes were made and what still needs to be done? Our Song Yoo-jin looks where South Korea stands now.
October 29th, 2022. Itaewon, a popular nightlife spot in Seoul, witnessed an unimaginable tragedy. A crowd crush resulted in the loss of 159 lives. 1 year later, we reflect on the question of what's changed. The absence of adequate crowd control measures has been pinpointed as a major factor. This year, director-level personnel from the Interior Ministry, alongside firefighters and police officers, are being deployed to areas expected to see overcrowding both before and after Halloween. Seoul city government is installing around 8,000 AI-enabled closed-circuit TV cameras. These cameras can detect and alert authorities to dangerous crowding. But there are still challenges.
There's now an emphasis on local governments to manage events that do not have organizers like the Itaewon Halloween festivities. But it's unclear whether every region has enough personnel and resources to do that.
The impact of tragedy has been psychological, too. Over 7,000 individuals have sought counseling. Mostly the general public, after being exposed to unfiltered graphic images and videos of the accident online.
Trauma can resurface any time in the future. If you need help, you can access free treatment programs at national and regional trauma centers anytime. Local mental health and welfare centers also offer various counseling and programs related to mental health.
Back in Itaewon, instead of the customary Halloween festivities, the streets are calm, with some streets posting signs paying tribute to the victims. So this is the exact spot where the deadly crowd crush happened last year, and now, as you can see, it's now a place where people will be able to forever remember those who lost their lives on the night of October 29th, 2022. Messages of condolences fill the walls. People continue to stream in to pay their respects. They hope something like this will never happen again.
And whenever I walk down here, I always pause and stop and I pray. Yeah.
Avoiding large gatherings is just not realistic, so I think it's absolutely crucial to have public servants, firefighters, and police personnel involved in crowd control.
Since the accident, I've experienced some trauma when it comes to large crowd gatherings. Nonetheless, I believe that people heal through one another. My wish is for these interactions to take place in areas that are comfortable and safe.
October 29th, 2022 will remain etched in the memory. Those who are lost will be remembered by those endeavoring for a safer future. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
10 days on from the first confirmed case of lumpy skin disease in South Korea, the total number of farms with infected cattle rose to 61 on Sunday. The latest case came out from Muan, Jeollanam-do province to mark the first case of the disease in the region. A total of 4,107 cattle have been culled or been culled at farms with confirmed cases. The outbreak has also expanded to 7 cities and provinces. With an emergency vaccination order on all cattle across the country being issued, vaccination will take place until next month. Tensions are rising in Gaza as Israeli forces continue their ground offensive against Hamas. This as the country's Prime Minister Netanyahu says the war has entered a second stage, which will be long and difficult. Shin Se-byuk with the latest.
The Israeli military continued its ground operations in Gaza throughout Sunday. The Israel Defense Forces said it destroyed Hamas anti-tank positions and killed several gunmen on the Gaza coast and at the Erez border crossing. Since it expanded its ground operations in Gaza on Friday night, the IDF has targeted Hamas operatives and positions hitting hundreds of underground tunnels and bunkers. As the war rages, Israel's military in a televised briefing on Sunday urged Palestinians in Gaza to evacuate northern regions, calling it urgent.
Over the last 2 weeks, we have been calling on residents of the northern Gaza Strip and Gaza City to relocate southward temporarily. We are today emphasizing that this is an urgent call.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also said the war against Hamas has now entered a second stage and warned it would be a tough one.
The war inside the Gaza Strip will be long and difficult, and we are ready for it.
There have been suggestions that the IDF is now using siege tactics on Hamas. According to The Economist on Sunday, the IDF has now shifted its strategy to an encirclement tactic and slower campaign. This comes according to the report as the Israeli military reportedly set up a base in Gaza on Friday, unlike in previous operations where they withdrew from the Strip overnight. This way, Israel's invasion of Gaza would be more gradual, which could help it avoid inflicting mass civilian casualties. The British publication also highlighted that the strategic shift aims to deplete essential supplies like fuel and food stored in Hamas' underground tunnels and bunkers. Citing a high-ranking Israeli official, The Economist said that this ground operation could take up to a year. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, there are rising concerns over the Israel-Hamas war possibly spilling over into a wider regional conflict. This as Iran's president warned Israel of crossing the red line, hinting that Tehran could possibly get involved in the conflict. Lee Seung-jae has more.
The death toll in Gaza has surpassed 8,000 since armed conflict began between Israel and Hamas on October 7th. According to Gaza's health ministry, the number of injured as a result of Israeli airstrikes is also approaching 20,000. The ministry added that the death toll may actually be much higher, with many people still trapped under rubble. As rescue teams continue their search and rescue operations, a total of 1,800 people are reportedly missing, with 1,000 of them being children. With Israel continuing air raids in Gaza, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi said Sunday that Israel has crossed the red line in Gaza, which may force everyone to take action, hinting at the possibility Tehran getting involved in the conflict. Taking to social media, President Raisi said the U.S. told Iran not to do anything, but Washington continues to give widespread support to Israel. Meanwhile, the U.S. had initially questioned Iran's involvement in the October 7th attacks. U.S. intelligence suggested that Iranian officials were also surprised by Hamas's attack and that Tehran was not directly involved in its planning, resourcing, or approval. Meanwhile, during a visit to Nepal, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for the protection of all civilians in Gaza. While Guterres condemned the October 7th attacks by Hamas, he expressed regret that Israel has intensified its military operations instead of a humanitarian pause supported by the international community. He also urged those with responsibility to step back from the brink and called the situation in Gaza a humanitarian catastrophe. Guterres visited the country to extend condolences to the families of 10 Nepalese students killed by Hamas in southern Israel on October 7th. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea and the United States will conduct a large-scale joint aerial exercise this week involving stealth fighter jets to enhance combined readiness against North Korea. Seoul's Air Force said last Friday that the 5-day Vigilant Defense 24 will kick off Monday, involving South Korea's F-35A fighters and tanker transport aircraft, as well as U.S. fighters and other warplanes. The allies aim to enhance the interoperability of those advanced fighter jets through airborne alert interdiction and close air support operations. North Korea has long accused the Seoul-Washington joint drills of being rehearsal for an invasion, often launching provocations as a protest against them. North Korean authorities reportedly rescued the stranded North Korean vessel drifting in the waters near the northern limit line in the East Sea, hours after being spotted by South Korea's military on Sunday afternoon. According to the Joint Chiefs of Staff on Sunday, a maritime patrol detected a rescue request from an unknown vessel stranded 3 kilometers north of the NLL before confirming it came from North Korea. The military said the vessel had been adrift for 10 days, and those aboard requested food and water and said they wished to return to the north. The military provided food and waters on humanitarian grounds. It also notified the North of the situation through the United Nations Command and other communications channels. This incident comes 5 days after a North Korean boat carrying suspected defectors crossed the NLL in the East Sea. Several home appliances from LG Electronics have been named as the highest-ranking products this year by U.S. product testing organization Consumer Reports. According to the industry sources on Monday, the LG OLED Evo ranked top among TVs for its technology with high picture quality and razor-sharp details. It was praised as a TV with no flaws. 2 of LG's washing machines were also named the best out of this year's cleaning and home appliances, while its induction cooker was selected as the most necessary cookware. Wheelchairs need assistance when moving away from flat ground and especially when faced with stairs. However, local researchers have incorporated robotics technology into wheelchairs that allows users to move up and down stairs and even stand in the chair. Yoon tells us more.
This electric wheelchair travels on the road, but once it reaches a step in front of a convenience store, it stops. Without assistance, access for this wheelchair is restricted. But local researchers have developed this strange-looking wheelchair that isn't stopped by stairs. It has smaller wheels that grip onto the surface of the stairs and move up and down them with stability.
It's the unique step-shaped wheel structure that helps the chair remain vertical relative to the ground. So a great advantage is its high stability against the risk of slipping.
Robotics technology has been incorporated into this new wheelchair, which also has a function that allows the user to change positions. It can maneuver to help the user to a standing position and can even move in that position, allowing further mobility. This helps tackle some of the health issues like poor blood circulation and the development of bed sores among wheelchair users.
Sitting in one position for a long period increases the risk of developing bed sores. So we need to stimulate blood circulation periodically, and this device provides that function.
The development of such new wheelchairs with the latest robotics technology means a new way for those with physical disabilities to have greater access to more general facilities. Yoon, Arirang News.
Here in South Korea, we're in the middle of the vibrant autumn foliage season. And this year, it is expected to be even more colorful than usual. Our Choi Soo-hyun has a story.
The mountains turning yellow and red means that autumn is here. In South Korea, peak foliage occurs when over 80% of the mountain's trees change color. It usually starts on Seoraksan Mountain in Gangwon-do province, east of the capital Seoul and the country's coldest region. From late October this year, famous fall foliage attractions across the country are set to welcome visitors.
The mountains near Seoul have already reached their peak autumn leaves, and mountains further south like Gaedongsan and Naejangsan are expected to have their peak fall foliage by early November.
One nearby location from Seoul is Yongmunsan Mountain in Yangpyeong-gun County, Gyeonggi-do Province, which boasts diverse tree species that determine the colors, making it a great choice for an autumn picnic. In particular, the maple trees along the track to Yongmun Temple. Its fall foliage started 9 days ago and has now reached its peak, displaying a variety of colors and beautiful landscapes.
It was my first time going on an autumn foliage trip this year, and the timing was just perfect. The autumn leaves had beautiful and vibrant colors, and when I climbed up the hill, seeing this, it made me feel peaceful and relaxed to relieve lots of the stress.
According to the Korea Forest Service, the leaf-changing season has been getting about 0.33 days later each year since 2009, likely due to rising temperatures from July to September. This year's peak fall foliage arrived 4 to 5 days later than usual, and these colorful leaves will stay for around a week to 10 days. People can still enjoy other parts of South Korea if they miss the northern and central mountain attractions. Those who want to explore autumn colors should pack their bags and have their calendars handy to start planning. The Forest Service said this year's fall foliage may be later, but due to temperature variations, it's expected to be more vibrant. 최수향, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In the U.S., a shooting in the Florida city of Tampa early on Sunday morning local time has left 2 dead and 16 hospitalized. The gunshots came during a street fight between 2 groups amid a crowd of hundreds of people leaving bars and nightclubs in Tampa's Ybor City neighborhood just before 3 a.m. over the Halloween weekend. Police initially reported a total of 18 casualties, which has been confirmed by Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkle as 2 deaths and 16 injuries. Burkle also stated that a 22-year-old suspect has been arrested and charged with second-degree murder. In Kazakhstan, the death toll from a mine fire on Saturday has increased to 45. The fire at the Kostenko coal mine appears to be from a methane blast and was more deadly than initially reported. On Saturday, the local office of the steelmaker ArcelorMittal, which operated the mine in Kazakhstan's Karaganda region, stated that 206 out of the 252 people had been evacuated. Emergency teams at the mine are still searching for one remaining miner who may have been underground. In world sports, 22-year-old tennis player Italian Yannick Sinner won the Vienna Open on Saturday, defeating Russian Daniil Medvedev for the second time this month in an ATP 500 final. World number 4 on the ATP Live rankings, the young Italian managed to get the upper hand in a 3-hour match against the world number 3 Medvedev. Just 3 weeks ago, Sinner had beaten the 27-year-old Medvedev for the first time in 7 attempts to win the China Open in Beijing. The Italian has now won 10 titles, 4 of them in 2023. American actor Matthew Perry, famous for his role as Chandler in the TV series Friends, has passed away at the age 54. The Emmy-nominated actor was found dead at his Los Angeles home on Saturday. The cause of death has been cited as an apparent drowning. He is best known for his role in the sitcom Friends, which ran from 1994 to 2004, winning an Emmy Award in 2002 for Best Comedy Series. Perry was publicly open about his struggle with addiction to alcohol and drugs, which he mentions in his 2022 memoirs. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Enchanting autumn colors in central areas are in full swing. And over the weekend, our beloved leaf peeping spots were packed with visitors. Certain parts of the country will also see autumn colors expanding this week. In fact, we will be seeing much warmer than seasonal temperatures throughout the week. We are having big gaps in readings today, which will help to develop autumn colors to become even more vibrant. But swings in inland areas could be nearly 20 degrees Celsius in some parts of the country, so please do dress accordingly. Temperatures are similar to yesterday in most parts of the country under bright sunshine nationwide. Seoul and Daejeon sees highs of 21 degrees Celsius. Gyeongju and Jeju will be topping out at 23 degrees Celsius. Sunny skies will dominate most places this week, except in the capital and west of Gangwon-do, with some rain in the forecast in the midweek. Then next week looks to be much colder, so let's make the most of the warmth while you can. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
The weekend marked 1 year since a deadly crowd crush in Itaewon. A memorial event was held in front of Seoul's City Hall, where some 10,000 people gathered to commemorate the tragedy. In Itaewon, the once epicenter of the festivities, there were mourners instead of partygoers, leaving notes and flowers at the accident site. Some shops and bars were also closed during the weekend. Well, it was slightly more crowded in Hongdae, where some 90,000 people flocked in. But barricades were set up and hundreds of police officers were instructing the crowds, keeping the night accident-free. And experts say the key now will be making sure future events are safe and recovering from the trauma through unity. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.